Okay, sixth grade, our assignment today was the paragraphs 6 through 8 of the Steve Jobs speech. Text dependent questions was what you are going to do today. Steve Jobs was the founder of Apple. I mean, most of us have Apple phones or have Apple computers. So um, he's huge. He's a inspirational figure. So I'm going to read the paragraphs and then we're going to go over what it is these paragraphs mean as it pertains to Bud, Not Buddy, our story. Okay, it wasn't all romantic. I didn't have a dorm room, so I slept on the floor in my friends' rooms. I returned Coke bottles for the 5-cent deposits to buy food with. And I would walk the 7 miles across town every Sunday night to get one good meal a week at the Hare Krishna Temple. I loved it. And much of what I stumbled into by following my curiosity and intuition turned out to be priceless later on. Let me give you one example. Reed College at the time offered perhaps the best calligraphy instruction in the country. Throughout the campus, every poster, every label on every drawer was beautifully hand uh, calligraphed. Because I had dropped out and didn't have to take the normal classes, I decided to take calligraphy class to learn how to do this. I learned about serif and sans serif typefaces, about varying the amount of space between different letter combinations, about what makes great typography great. It was beautiful, historical, artistically subtle in a way that science can't capture, and I found it fascinating. None of this had even a hope of any practical application in my life. But 10 years later, when we were designing the first Macintosh computer, it all came back to me, and we designed it all into the Mac. It was the first computer with beautiful typography. If I had never dropped in on that single course in college, the Mac would have never had multiple typefaces or proportionately spaced fonts. And since Windows just copied the Mac, it's likely that no personal computer would have them. If I had never dropped out, I would have never dropped in on this calligraphy class. And personal computers might not have the wonderful typography that they do. Of course, it was impossible to connect the dots looking forward when I was in college, but it was very, very clear looking backward 10 years later. Okay, want us to pay attention. In paragraph 6, he says that it wasn't all romantic. I didn't have a dorm room, so I slept on the floor in friends' rooms. I returned Coke bottles for the 5 cents deposit to buy food with. And I would walk the 7 miles across town every Sunday night to get one good meal a week at the Hare Krishna Temple. So, what does he mean when he said it wasn't romantic? A lot of us, when we were in school, oh, it's like we can't wait to graduate, we can't wait to be free, and then we're hit with the reality that nobody's responsible for us anymore. Um, we have to fend for ourselves, and he was basically homeless, and that follows along with Bud. Bud was also homeless because he was an orphan. He didn't know his father, and his mother had passed away. So that's what he means when he said it wasn't romantic. So even though he described it as one of the best decisions he ever made, and that would have been him dropping out of college, it wasn't an easy time for him because he really didn't have anywhere to live or any money to live on. And then he became one of the richest people in the world. Okay, at the end of paragraph 7, he says, of course, it was impossible to connect the dots looking forward when I was in college, but it was very, very clear looking backwards 10 years later. Remember that advice that Bud's mother gave him? that when one door closes, another one opens. That's the type of thing that he's talking about. So, what are the dots that Steve Jobs connected between the post college experience, and that would have been before, that would post, I'm sorry, after, post means after experiences, and his designing of the first Mac computer? And that would be what we use now. So he realized that looking back, the calligraphy class that he took, something that he didn't think that he would ever use in life, because a lot of times we say, well, Miss Summers, why are we doing this? How is this going to apply to my everyday life? You don't know. And sometimes things have a way of coming back to you. Things that you didn't think that you need end up becoming a very important thing in your life. So that's why we should take advantage and embrace all education. So he was looking back at his calligraphy class he took after dropping out of college that led him to designing the first Mac with multiple typeface and fonts, which led to the typefaces and fonts that we use on computers today. So all those different fancy fonts that we use on the computer, he was the person who designed that. So, okay. At the beginning of paragraph 8, he says, again, you can't connect the dots looking forward. You can only connect them looking backwards. And what do you think he means by that? Again, we go back to where Bud's mother told him, that didn't make sense to him at the time, that when one door closes, another door opens. So you look forward, you can't see what's going to happen. So you can't see how the decisions you will make will affect your future. So looking back, you can see how one decision led to something else, which led to something else, and how that one decision had a big effect. So you just never know. Okay, in the previous lesson, you determined that at the end of the paragraph 8, he gives us a rule to live by. You have to trust in something, your gut, destiny, life, karma, whatever. This approach has never let me down, and it has made all the difference in my life. And that's something that Steve Jobs said. So after reading those paragraphs 6 through 8, where do you think this rule came from? How did the experience that he described show that his rule didn't let him down in this part of his life? So we see that his decision to drop out of college and to take that calligraphy class led him to designing the first Mac, which led him to becoming very successful, which proves the rule didn't let him down in this part of his life. So even though things seemed really bleak for him during that time, he ended up becoming a famous person, Mac computers, very successful. So that is your lesson today. So make sure you read. If you did not get it, reread, or you can listen to this again. And I will talk to you later. Enjoy the rest of your day.